Question 141. Your development team has delivered all sprint commitments for the last 2 iterations, but you notice subtle behavior. Tasks are getting completed very late in the sprint, developers are requesting more last-minute clarifications, and QA has reported an increase in minor but recurring defects. No milestone is officially delayed, so stakeholders still consider the project green. What should you do to identify whether these signals indicate an early risk? Here's my answer, and why. Hold a focused working session with dev and QA leads to review the patterns, late task completion, recurring minor defects, late clarifications, validate whether these represent systemic risks, and document emerging risks with owners. In my opinion, this is the best option because proactively investigates weak signals before they grow, aligns with continuous monitoring and early risk identification, converts vague symptoms into traceable risks with clear owners. Better than escalation because it validates facts before raising alarm. Early risks rarely appear as clear failures. They show up as subtle delivery patterns. Investigating trends directly with leads helps convert weak signals into explicit risks. This builds team awareness, reduces the chance of unplanned slippage, and strengthens your credibility with stakeholders. By acting early, you prevent small quality cracks from becoming schedule-impacting issues. Question 142. Your project relies on a separate infrastructure team to provision cloud environments. Recently, they have started responding more slowly to requests, have missed 2 informal target dates, and their status updates have become vague. We are looking into it. There is no official delay yet, and the infra team insists everything is fine. What should you do? Here's my answer, and why. Schedule a targeted dependency checkpoint with the infrastructure lead to review pending requests, clarify dates, surface constraints, and document any emerging dependency risks. In my opinion, this is the best option because validates early dependency concerns directly, aligns expectations and clarifies constraints before a formal delay occurs, reduces downstream schedule impact by making the risk explicit. Superior to passive assumption because it grounds decisions in facts. Dependency delays almost always begin with subtle behavioral changes. Early validation prevents these signs from converting into timeline-impacting failures. A structured checkpoint allows you to clarify commitments, detect blockers, and document risks early. PMs who address dependency signals early preserve delivery predictability and stakeholder confidence. Question 143. Your UAT testers have started logging an increasing number of environment-related issues, including intermittent slowness and failed test setups. They assure you testing is still on track, but the number of environment incidents has doubled over the past 2 weeks. Release is 6 weeks away. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Analyze environment incident patterns with the QA lead and DevOps team, identify root triggers, and log an environment stability risk with actions. In my opinion, this is the best option because early environment instability signals future release risk, enables proactive mitigation before UAT fails, converts patterns into actionable risks, better than waiting because it addresses systemic causes. Environment instability is one of the strongest early warning signs for release risk. Taking a structured approach, pattern review, trigger analysis, and risk logging reduces uncertainty and supports a smoother UAT phase. PMs who act early avoid last-minute chaos and unexpected release failures. Question 144. A normally responsive senior stakeholder has started declining weekly check-ins, delegating decisions to a junior analyst, and responding late to requirement clarifications. There are no open issues yet, but future phases depend heavily on their engagement. What should you do next? Here's my answer and why. Initiate a respectful one-on-one discussion with the stakeholder to understand constraints, reconfirm expectations, and align on a revised engagement model or backup delegate. In my opinion, this is the best option because addresses disengagement as an early risk signal, encourages clarity and avoids late requirement gaps, builds relationship trust and transparency, better than escalation because it gathers context first. Stakeholder disengagement often precedes requirement delays or sign-off issues. Direct, respectful conversation is the most effective way to understand constraints and avoid future surprises. It strengthens alignment and ensures you maintain momentum in requirement-heavy phases. Question 145. During sprint planning, developers mention they are not fully comfortable with an upcoming integration because documentation from the external partner is incomplete. They still commit to the stories, but their tone suggests hesitation. The partner insists the docs are almost complete. No formal dependency risk exists yet. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Hold a dependency clarification session with the partner team and your developers to review gaps, confirm assumptions, and document an integration risk. In my opinion, this is the best option because converts subtle discomfort into structured risk analysis, gets both teams aligned early, reduces integration failures later, better than passive waiting because it clarifies assumptions. Developer discomfort is a valuable risk signal. Addressing it collaboratively with the dependency owner prevents late surprises and reduces integration rework. Good PMs treat uncertainty as a cue for clarification, not escalation or assumption-based development. Question 146. You lead a data migration project. Although daily stand-ups show tasks on track, you notice repeated comments like, "We still need to figure out edge cases," and "validation will require more time than expected." Meanwhile, a few data validation tasks have quietly been pushed into the next sprint without formal discussion. No milestone is officially at risk yet. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Conduct a targeted review with the data migration and QA teams to evaluate postponed validation tasks, clarify uncertainties, and identify any emerging data quality risks. In my opinion, this is the best option because recognizes repeated postponement and uncertainty as risk indicators, brings hidden concerns into structured discussion, supports early detection of data quality gaps, better than relying on green status reports because it investigates the underlying work. Subtle shifts, like postponed tasks and recurring uncertainty, are often early warnings of deeper quality risks. A focused review helps translate ambiguity into actionable risks. This promotes clarity, ensures adequate time for remediation, and prevents last-minute data quality failures near go-live. Question 147. Your project includes a critical third-party vendor. Recently, the vendor has been submitting partial updates, cancelling weekly syncs, and frequently saying their internal team is still discussing timelines. However, their official status reports still show everything as green. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Initiate a structured checkpoint with the vendor's project manager to review missed syncs, partial updates, timeline concerns, and document any emerging delivery risks. In my opinion, this is the best option because catches early inconsistencies in vendor behavior, forces clarity on commitments and constraints, enables early escalation only if required, more effective than trusting green reports blindly. Vendor risk often surfaces through behavior, missed meetings, vague answers, partial updates, before schedule slips appear. A structured checkpoint promotes transparency, validates suspicions, and allows documentation of risks early. This protects timelines without unnecessary escalation. Question 148. Your cross-functional team is usually vocal during retrospectives, but recently several members have become unusually quiet. In stand-ups, they respond minimally and avoid discussing blockers. A senior engineer privately mentions that technical debt might hit us soon, but no one has formally raised a risk. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Facilitate a psychologically safe technical risk workshop to openly surface concerns, explore potential technical debt risks, and document specific risks with owners. In my opinion, this is the best option because recognizes behavioral changes as early risk indicators, creates a safe environment for raising concerns, surfaces hidden risks proactively. Better than waiting for someone to speak up formally. People often signal risks through behavior long before they articulate them. Creating a safe forum encourages open discussion and prevents risks from remaining hidden. By converting quiet discomfort into explicit, trackable risks, you strengthen team trust and avoid technical surprises later. Question 149. A business stakeholder keeps approving user stories with comments like, "good enough for now," even though acceptance criteria are not fully clear. They are skipping backlog refinement sessions and responding late to clarifications. Nothing has failed yet, but delivery depends on high-quality requirements. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Initiate a requirement clarity alignment session with the stakeholder to review gaps, confirm expectations, and identify potential requirement quality risks. In my opinion, this is the best option because addresses unclear requirements early, ensures alignment on acceptance criteria, prevents downstream rework, better than accepting good enough without clarity. Requirement quality issues rarely appear suddenly. They emerge through skipped meetings, vague approvals, and late clarifications. Addressing these early prevents large-scale rework and quality degradation. A focused alignment session builds shared understanding and reduces requirement-related risks. Question 150. Your project dashboard shows green status, but you notice a growing number of unresolved minor issues reported by customers in pilot testing. Support tickets reflect increasing dissatisfaction. Slow, confusing workflow, not intuitive. The product owner insists these are normal teething problems. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Analyze pilot feedback patterns with the PO and UX lead. Identify recurring themes and document any emerging adoption risks with clear actions. In my opinion, this is the best option because treats usage feedback as early adoption risk signals, identifies patterns rather than isolated complaints, supports proactive customer experience risk management, better than dismissing concerns as normal. Pilot feedback provides some of the earliest indicators of adoption and usability risks. Analyzing patterns, not individual complaints, helps identify systemic issues early. By converting feedback trends into explicit risks, you guide more effective product decisions and prevent customer dissatisfaction during full rollout. Question 151. During an early project risk workshop, your team identifies 15 risks. A few have very low probability but extremely high impact, while several others have high probability but very small impact. Some stakeholders insist that high probability risks must be handled first, while others want focus on anything catastrophic. What should you do to prioritize correctly? Here's my answer and why. Facilitate a structured impact probability scoring session with the team to create a unified risk matrix and rank risks objectively. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures objective, data-driven prioritization, balances both dimensions, impact and probability, reduces bias and stakeholder-driven prioritization conflicts. Better than subjective arguments because it applies a transparent and consistent method. Impact probability scoring enables teams to make structured prioritization decisions without bias or politics. It balances seriousness and likelihood, producing a clear ranking that stakeholders can align around. This approach also avoids wasted effort by focusing on the risks that truly matter. A unified matrix is the foundation for disciplined PM risk management. Question 152. A risk with low probability could cause complete project failure, while another risk with high probability would only result in a minor 2-day delay. The team is debating which to handle first, and leadership expects clarity before approving mitigation budgets. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Use impact probability scoring to show that the catastrophic low probability risk ranks higher because its impact is far more severe. In my opinion, this is the best option because recognizes that catastrophic impact can outweigh likelihood, supports objective justification for mitigation spend, aligns with risk appetite principles, better than focusing solely on probability. Risk prioritization is not about choosing the most likely events. It is about managing the threats that could cause the greatest damage. Catastrophic risks deserve priority even when probability is low. A structured scoring approach helps justify this to stakeholders and budget decision makers. Question 153. You inherit a project with 27 risks logged but none rated. Several risks appear trivial, while others mention potential compliance failures. Without ratings, stakeholders are confused about which risks deserve immediate attention. What should you do first? Here's my answer and why. Apply a consistent impact probability scoring scale to all risks to establish a clear ranking and identify high priority items. In my opinion, this is the best option because creates structure and comparability, quickly exposes critical versus trivial risks, enables aligned stakeholder discussions, better than subjective or ad hoc sorting. Consistent scoring is foundational for meaningful risk management. It creates transparency, separates noise from important risks, and enables targeted mitigation. Applying structure early gives stakeholders clarity and allows you to focus attention where it matters most. Question 154. A vendor reports 5 new risks, 3 with medium probability but low impact, and 2 with low probability but extremely high financial impact. Your team is unsure which ones matter most. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Prioritize the high-impact risks using impact probability scoring, even if their probability is low. In my opinion, this is the best option because high-impact risks carry strategic consequences. Scoring highlights their true criticality, ensures resource focus on major exposures, better than prioritizing only based on likelihood. High-impact risks must be prioritized even when they seem unlikely. Financial or contractual consequences require immediate visibility and mitigation planning. Scoring keeps you aligned with organizational risk appetite and prevents vendor-driven prioritization. Question 155. Your risk register includes many low-impact risks and 1 major regulatory risk with medium probability. The team wants to finish the easy ones first, so the risk burn-down chart looks good for the next review. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Prioritize the regulatory risk because its high impact makes it more critical than completing low-impact items. In my opinion, this is the best option because focuses on the most significant exposure, prevents compliance failures, ensures alignment with governance expectations. Better than focusing on easy tasks for optics, compliance and regulatory risks demand priority because their impact is disproportionately high. Focusing on easy risks creates a false sense of progress and neglects the most dangerous threat. Effective PMs make impact-driven decisions, not optics-driven ones. Question 156. During quarterly risk review, you noticed 2 major changes. A high-impact security risk has decreased in probability after new controls were added. A low-impact capacity risk has increased in probability because 2 teams are now sharing the same test environment. Stakeholders are unsure which risk should receive attention first. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Recalculate both risks using the updated impact probability matrix and re-rank them to reflect the new probability and impact changes. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures prioritization reflects current realities, uses structured data-driven reassessment, maintains risk transparency and traceability. Superior because it avoids bias and adjusts rankings objectively. Risk prioritization is not static. As probability or impact changes, risks should be rescored and re-ranked using the impact probability matrix. This ensures your risk profile reflects current exposure, enabling informed decisions and avoiding outdated assumptions. A recalculated ranking is the most reliable way to allocate attention and resources. Question 157. Leadership asks you to present the top 5 risks for the upcoming steering committee. Your project currently tracks 22 risks. Some medium probability risks only affect internal processes, while 1 low probability risk could cause a major customer experience failure. How should you prioritize your list? Here's my answer and why. Use impact probability scoring to ensure the customer impacting risk is ranked appropriately, even if its probability is low, and include it in the top 5. In my opinion, this is the best option because protects customer-facing priorities, avoids probability bias, ensures leadership sees the true strategic risks, better than picking frequent or popular risks. Customer-impacting risks often carry disproportionate consequences. Even with low probability, they deserve visibility in risk forums. Scoring ensures these risks are not overlooked, enabling leadership to make informed, strategic decisions. This strengthens organizational alignment and protects customer outcomes. Question 158. 1 risk has extremely high impact, but the probability is unclear because the technical design is not finalized. Another risk has clearly high probability but minimal impact. Your team is unsure how to prioritize without full data. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Use expert judgment and early technical analysis to estimate the probability of the high-impact risk. Then score and rank both risks using the impact probability model. In my opinion, this is the best option because enables prioritization even with imperfect data, incorporates expert knowledge where probability is uncertain, ensures high-impact risks are not ignored, better than waiting for perfect clarity, Risk prioritization must continue even when inputs are imperfect. Expert judgment fills gaps and prevents paralysis while waiting for perfect data. This prevents high-impact threats from becoming hidden risks and supports timely decision-making. A structured scoring approach brings rigor and consistency. Question 159. You discover that different teams have been using inconsistent definitions of high impact and medium probability when rating risks. As a result, the consolidated risk report shows conflicting severities. How should you proceed to prioritize correctly? Here's my answer and why. Standardize impact and probability definitions across all teams, and then rescore all risks using the unified scale. In my opinion, this is the best option because creates consistency in ratings, ensures comparable scoring across teams, produces a reliable, consolidated risk ranking, better than merging inconsistent data. Consistent scoring is the foundation of meaningful prioritization. Without shared definitions, ratings become subjective and incomparable. Standardizing the scale allows for accurate aggregation and ensures the organization focuses on the risks that truly matter. Question 160. A newly identified dependency risk has moderate probability and potentially major impact, but details are still emerging. Meanwhile, two other risks have high probability, but would only cause minor inconvenience. Some team members argue that uncertainty means the dependency risk should wait. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Perform preliminary impact probability scoring for the dependency risk using available information and place it higher in priority due to its potentially major impact. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures major impact risks receive early visibility, supports decision-making even with imperfect data, prioritizes based on consequence, not convenience. Better than delaying assessment. Uncertain but high-impact risks must never be ignored. Preliminary scoring helps determine their relative importance early, ensuring they are not overshadowed by minor high-probability risks. This proactive approach supports stronger risk governance and prevents major surprises later. Question 161. Your project depends on a critical integration module from an external vendor. In recent checkpoints, the vendor has hinted that some components might slip due to internal restructuring, but they have not officially raised a delay. Meanwhile, your internal team is preparing downstream work that depends heavily on this module. What should you do to plan mitigation actions effectively? Here's my answer and why. Work with the vendor to define concrete mitigation actions. Early incremental deliverables, additional design clarifications, a shared delivery calendar, and agreed escalation paths. In my opinion, this is the best option because converts vague signals into actionable mitigation steps, reduces both likelihood and impact of vendor delay, establishes clear ownership, checkpoints, and commitments. Better than reactive escalation because it strengthens control proactively. Mitigation planning must turn uncertainty into concrete actions. Engaging the vendor early allows you to create shared checkpoints and reduce ambiguity before delays materialize. Incremental deliverables and clear escalation paths strengthen predictability and reduce downstream impact. Effective PMs shape vendor outcomes, not just react to them. Question 162. A key architect warns that the current design might cause performance bottlenecks under peak load. Requirements are not fully stable yet, and the team has no data to confirm or deny the concern. What is the best mitigation planning step? Here's my answer and why. Plan technical spikes or performance prototypes to validate assumptions and use the findings to define targeted mitigation actions. In my opinion, this is the best option because reduces uncertainty through measurable validation, helps plan realistic mitigation instead of speculation, prevents late discovery of performance failures, better than premature escalations or guess-based planning. Unvalidated technical risks are best mitigated through structured experiments. Spikes help you understand real constraints early and design mitigation based on facts, not assumptions. This approach avoids late rework and enables precise, cost-efficient decision-making. Question 163. A policy team has not finalized new compliance rules, but your next development phase depends on them. Early signs indicate that requirements may change significantly, and developers express concern about building features that may later be invalid. What should you do to plan mitigation actions? Here's my answer and why. Plan early requirement workshops with the policy team, establish temporary baselines, and prepare for rapid update cycles once final policies are released. In my opinion, this is the best option because creates structure around evolving requirements, reduces rework risk by aligning early, supports flexible, controlled adaptation, better than waiting passively for final documents. Mitigation planning around evolving requirements requires proactive clarification and flexible structures. Early workshops and interim baselines create alignment while avoiding paralysis. This approach reduces rework and supports smoother adaptation when final policies arrive. Question 164. A security review team is overloaded and historically takes weeks to complete assessments. Your release depends on their approval. They haven't confirmed availability yet, but your timeline requires their review within the next month. How should you plan mitigation? Here's my answer and why. Engage the security team early to secure time slots. Request rolling partial reviews and incorporate these steps into the mitigation plan. In my opinion, this is the best option because addresses a predictable delay proactively, rolling reviews reduce end-stage bottlenecks, ensures alignment on timing and expectations, better than hoping the overloaded team becomes available. Mitigation planning means adjusting for predictable constraints early. Engaging overloaded teams ahead of time prevents last-minute bottlenecks and stabilizes release plans. Rolling reviews distribute effort while reducing the time-critical pressure near launch. Question 165. A new regulation might require additional reporting fields later this year. The probability is low, but the impact would be significant. Your team is unsure whether to start major redesign now or wait. What mitigation planning approach should you take? Here's my answer and why. Introduce a regulatory monitoring process, design flexible data structures, and prepare a contingency work package for activation if the regulation becomes mandatory. In my opinion, this is the best option because balances low probability with high impact, provides readiness without major upfront cost, reduces future rework and compliance exposure, better than redesigning prematurely. Low probability, high impact risks demand flexible readiness, not overreaction. A combined approach of monitoring, flexible design, and prepared contingencies helps you stay compliant without wasting effort. Good PMs prepare intelligently without committing unnecessary upfront work. Question 166. A critical subject matter expert (SME) supporting the project has notified you informally that they may be reassigned to another initiative soon. They have unique knowledge about core system components, and losing them would delay design decisions. No official communication has been made yet, and the team is continuing work, assuming the SME will stay. What is the best mitigation planning action? Here's my answer and why. Begin cross-training another team member and ensure the SME documents key knowledge, decision logs, and architectural reasoning before reassignment. In my opinion, this is the best option because builds redundancy and prevents knowledge loss, ensures continuity even if reassignment occurs, reduces schedule and quality risk, better than relying on organizational politics or verbal assurances. Mitigation planning around key person dependencies must focus on resilience. Cross-training and documentation safeguard the project from unexpected resource shifts. This approach reduces risk proactively rather than reacting at the last minute when the impact becomes unavoidable. Question 167. Your data quality team reports an increasing trend of inconsistent entries coming for new upstream system. While these inconsistencies are not blocking current work, they may cause validation failures during later phases. The upstream team insists that the issues are rare. What should you do to plan mitigation effectively? Here's my answer and why. Define specific mitigation actions such as automated validation rules, upstream-downstream data checks, and assigning data stewards to monitor and correct anomalies early. In my opinion, this is the best option because addresses data quality issues systematically, reduces rework and future test failures, converts rising patterns into actionable mitigation activities, better than vague monitoring approaches. Mitigation planning means acting before issues escalate. By implementing validation rules and upstream coordination, you reduce the probability of downstream failures. Addressing data quality risks early ensures smoother integration and prevents late-stage disruptions. Question 68. A third-party API you rely on may change versions soon. The provider has not confirmed timelines, but early communication suggests breaking changes. Your developers are concerned that adapting later may require large rework. What should be your best mitigation approach? Here's my answer and why. Create a mitigation plan, including regular monitoring of the API provider's updates, preparing a versioning strategy, designing for backward compatibility, and scheduling rapid update windows. In my opinion, this is the best option because prepares the team for changes without overcommitting, reduces rework risk by using versioning and compatibility patterns, ensures adaptation readiness when changes occur, more balanced than redesigning early or waiting passively. Dependency-related risks require readiness, not overreaction. A structured mitigation plan incorporating monitoring, versioning, and contingency windows allows the team to respond quickly when changes occur. This reduces cost, prevents late-stage disruption, and strengthens delivery predictability. Question 169. Your testing environment is scheduled for maintenance during a critical testing window. The infrastructure team says the maintenance should not affect you, but cannot guarantee uptime. Your test lead is concerned this may delay execution. What is the best mitigation step? Here's my answer and why. Coordinate with infrastructure to adjust maintenance windows or secure backup environments, and document fallback procedures as mitigation actions. In my opinion, this is the best option because directly reduces environment availability risk, provides alternative paths for continuity, ensures predictable test execution, better than trusting uncertain assurances. Mitigation planning ensures continuity even when dependencies are uncertain. Securing alternate environments or negotiating maintenance windows reduces exposure and stabilizes timelines. This approach prevents preventable delays and supports disciplined test planning. Question 170. Your team warns that accumulated technical debt, untested refactoring, duplicated logic, outdated components may slow future sprints. Velocity is stable now, but trend lines show small but steady declines in predictability. What should you do to plan mitigation? Here's my answer and why. Define targeted mitigation actions such as prioritized refactoring tasks, cleanup activities, technical debt tracking, and scheduling dedicated capacity in upcoming sprints. In my opinion, this is the best option because converts general technical debt concerns into actionable plans, reduces long-term performance and quality risk, allocates time deliberately to prevent compounding debt, better than waiting for debt to cause failures. Technical debt is a slow-moving risk that requires planned mitigation. By converting concerns into specific refactoring tasks and allocating time deliberately, you prevent long-term degradation of quality and predictability. Proactive mitigation preserves sustainable delivery. Question 171. Your team identifies that a critical data migration job has a 30% chance of failing during the cutover weekend due to unpredictable volume spikes in legacy systems. You have limited downtime, and failing the job would extend downtime by 6 to 8 hours. The DBA suggests there might be workarounds, but no concrete plan exists. What should you do next with respect to contingency planning? Here's my answer and why. Develop a contingency plan that includes an alternate migration sequence, pre-validated rollback steps, additional compute scaling for the window, and named owners for each fallback action. In my opinion, this is the best option because creates a fully defined backup strategy for a high-impact event, ensures clear ownership, triggers and steps, minimizes downtime if the primary plan fails, better than vague workarounds, because it formalizes readiness and allocates responsibilities. Contingency planning exists to protect the project from high-impact events when uncertainty remains. A clear fallback strategy with specific triggers and owners prevents chaos during production cutovers. Strong PMs focus on readiness, not assumptions or optimism. Question 172. Your project includes a third-party integration scheduled for release in 3 weeks. The vendor has reported low but non-zero risk of API throttling on go-live day due to seasonal traffic. Your business team insists the launch date cannot be postponed. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Create a contingency plan with the vendor, including pre-allocated increased API limits, manual override procedures, alternate batch processing schedules, and rapid communication protocols for throttling incidents. In my opinion, this is the best option because anticipates vendor limitations proactively, protects launch by providing fallback workflows, ensures rapid response if throttling occurs. Better because it stabilizes a fixed business date. When dates can't move, the PM must strengthen resilience, not argue against constraints. A detailed contingency plan with the vendor ensures fallback procedures are ready, protecting both customer experience and launch integrity. Question 173. A performance test is scheduled tomorrow, but your load testing tool vendor reports possible outages during the same window. The test is critical for go-live readiness, and rescheduling would delay multiple downstream activities. What is the best approach regarding contingency? Here's my answer and why. Prepare a contingency plan that includes alternate test tooling, backup test windows, reduced scope performance scenarios, and a communication path for switching plans quickly if the tool goes down. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures test continuity even if tooling fails, minimizes schedule impact with predefined alternatives, reduces dependency on a single vendor tool. Better than betting on vendor uptime. High dependency activities like performance testing must always have fallback strategies. A structured contingency plan ensures continuity even when unexpected external disruptions occur. Good PMs reduce dependency risk through alternative paths and predefined triggers. Question 174. Your project depends on a government approval that usually arrives within 2 weeks. However, recent cases show approvals taking up to 5 weeks. Your current schedule has zero float before the approval-related milestone. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Create a contingency plan, including alternate sequencing of tasks, buffer injections, and scenario-based timelines if approval is delayed beyond expectation. In my opinion, this is the best option because converts approval uncertainty into structured options, preserves timeline flexibility, enables progress even during delays, superior to waiting passively. When external approvals become unpredictable, PMs must build optionality through contingency planning. Alternative sequencing and buffer strategies keep the project moving while preventing timeline shocks. This is a pragmatic and proactive response to regulatory uncertainty. Question 175. You are preparing for a major release, but recent UAT trends suggest intermittent environment instability. DevOps believes outages are unlikely during release weekend, but cannot guarantee full stability. What is the best mitigation contingency planning action? Here's my answer and why. Develop a contingency plan including backup environments, rollback instructions, resource on-call rosters, and predefined triggers for activating the fallback environment. In my opinion, this is the best option because reduces risk of release failure due to environment issues, ensures rapid failover capability, assigns responsibilities and activation triggers, stronger than relying on DevOps optimism. A well-designed contingency plan prepares the team to recover from environment instability quickly. Backup environments and clear rollback protocols reduce downtime and increase confidence going into release weekend. Strong PMs ensure fallback readiness rather than relying on optimistic assumptions. Question 176. Your team is preparing a region-wide system rollout. During a dry run, you discover that one of the regional data centers intermittently loses network connectivity. The operations team says they are monitoring it, but no root cause or fixed timeline is confirmed. The rollout requires all regions online. What is the best contingency planning action? Here's my answer and why. Prepare a contingency plan that includes rerouting traffic to alternate regions, delaying region-specific rollout steps, and defining triggers for activating the failover site if the data center becomes unstable. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures business continuity even if one site fails, uses failover capabilities to protect rollout timelines, introduces conditional sequencing to reduce impact, better than waiting for operations to fix the issue. Contingency plans should ensure continuity when infrastructure is unreliable. Leveraging failover regions and conditional rollout steps reduces exposure and prevents total rollout failure. Strong PMs protect delivery by preparing alternate operational paths, not by relying on uncertain fixes. Question 177. A key legal approval for your product launch may be delayed due to a backlog in the legal department. The deadline for marketing campaigns is fixed, and materials are already scheduled. The legal team cannot commit to a date. How should you handle contingency planning? Here's my answer and why. Develop a contingency plan with alternate launch scenarios, adjusting campaign timelines, preparing a soft launch plan, or substituting non-regulated features until approval is obtained. In my opinion, this is the best option because maintains launch momentum despite legal uncertainty, uses scenario planning to prevent full stoppage, aligns marketing, legal, and product under controlled paths, better than waiting passively and risking campaign failure. When approvals are uncertain but launch timelines are fixed, scenario-based contingency planning provides flexibility. Preparing alternative launch paths keeps momentum without exposing the organization to legal risk. This proactive structure allows teams to adapt quickly once approval timing is known. Question 178. Your reporting team relies on a BI tool that has shown increasing instability, including sudden crashes. The BI vendor has acknowledged the issue, but can only provide a fix sometime next quarter. Yet your quarterly board report must rely on this tool. What should be your contingency plan? Here's my answer and why. Prepare a contingency plan that includes backup export scripts, scheduled data extraction windows, manual aggregation templates, and a protocol to switch to offline reporting if the BI tool fails. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures reporting continuity despite tool instability, reduces reliance on a single failing component, supports timely board reporting obligations, better than waiting for the vendor fix. Contingency planning for unstable tools focuses on preparing alternate data paths and manual workflows. This guarantees essential deliverables, like board reports, even when vendor fixes are delayed. Reliable reporting requires fallback processes, not optimism. Question 179. A security vulnerability scan identifies a potential high-impact vulnerability in your application. The patch is available, but applying it requires downtime that your customers cannot tolerate this week. Security insists the vulnerability must not be ignored. How should you handle contingency? Here's my answer and why. Define a contingency plan, including temporary compensating controls, e.g., firewall rules, rate limits, monitored alerts, a reduced risk operating mode, and a scheduled immediate patch window when downtime becomes permissible. In my opinion, this is the best option because reduces exposure until patching is feasible, balances security risk with operational constraints, provides a structured temporary defense. Better than delaying action without compensating controls. Contingency planning in security means applying compensating controls when a permanent fix cannot be applied immediately. This minimizes exposure while respecting operational constraints. Strong PMs ensure risk is actively reduced, not deferred. Question 180. Your cloud team warns that a major provider outage affecting your region is possible due to predicted extreme weather. The probability is unclear, but similar events previously caused multi-hour outages. Your release is scheduled during the same period. What is the best contingency planning approach? Here's my answer and why. Develop a contingency plan including cross-region deployment options, delayed release windows, pre-staged backups, and documented failover activation procedures if the provider's region becomes unavailable. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures service continuity during regional outages, uses cloud-native resilience patterns, protects release integrity despite unpredictable weather. Better than assuming the outage will not occur, cloud region outages require robust contingency strategies, cross-region deployment, defined failover protocols, and scheduled backup windows protect the release from external disruptions. Contingency plans convert unpredictable external risks into controlled and manageable outcomes. Question 181. Your integration partner has repeatedly missed intermediate milestones, and a critical interface is now at risk of not being ready for system testing starting next week. Despite multiple reminders, the partner continues giving vague status updates like "we are working on it." Your leadership is unaware of the risk, and the testing schedule cannot move. What is the best escalation action? Here's my answer and why. Escalate formally to the partner's delivery manager with a clear risk statement, documented impacts, required actions, and a request for immediate corrective ownership. In my opinion, this is the best option because escalates through the correct channel with objective evidence, brings higher authority into resolving a high-impact risk, creates accountability, and forces transparency. Better than informal nudging because deadlines are imminent. Critical risks require timely escalation to decision-makers who can unblock progress. Since deadlines are fixed and prior attempts have failed, involving a higher authority ensures accountability and aligns actions to protect the testing schedule. Question 182. During development, your team discovers that a key component may not meet security standards required for production. The security team says they will investigate but cannot commit to a timeline due to backlog. Without this investigation, production approval is impossible. What is the best escalation approach? Here's my answer and why. Escalate to the security team's leadership with a clear impact statement, highlighting the risk to the production timeline and requesting prioritization. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures security leadership understands urgency, elevates the issue within the correct governance structure, protects go-live readiness, better than waiting in an undefined backlog. When a mandatory compliance step is blocked, escalation to functional leadership ensures the risk receives appropriate priority. This protects the project timeline and ensures compliance standards are met. Question 183. A critical vendor resource supporting your project has suddenly gone on extended leave. There is no backup, and the vendor estimates at least 2 weeks before a replacement is allocated. This delay will directly impact your milestone. Your internal team suggests waiting a few days to see if the vendor finds someone sooner. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Escalate to the vendor's account manager with documented impact, requesting an immediate substitute and temporary coverage plan. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures the vendor allocates urgent resources, addresses the milestone impact directly, creates formal accountability for recovery, better than waiting for uncertain improvements. Vendor resource risks must be escalated quickly because waiting rarely accelerates replacement. Involving the account manager creates urgency and ensures the vendor provides adequate staffing to protect project timelines. Question 184. Your dependency team informs you that their deliverable will likely slip by 2 weeks. You escalate to their PM, who assures you they will try to catch up, but provides no recovery plan or details. Your own delivery date faces contractual penalties if delayed. What is the best escalation action? Here's my answer and why. Escalate to the dependency team's senior leadership with documented risk impact, requesting a formal recovery plan and confirmed timeline. In my opinion, this is the best option because brings senior authority into the risk resolution, requires structured recovery planning, protects your contractual deadlines, better than trusting verbal commitments. Critical risks tied to external dependencies require escalation when commitments lack substance. Senior leaders can reassign resources, negotiate timelines, or mandate recovery plans, actions that peer-level PMs cannot guarantee. Question 185. During project reviews, you learn that testing defects are rising sharply and may jeopardize the release. The QA lead admits they are understaffed, but hesitated to raise this formally. You now suspect this may escalate further. What should be your next escalation action? Here's my answer and why. Escalate to delivery leadership with clear defect trends, staffing gaps, and recommended actions, such as additional test engineers or temporary vendor support. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures the resource shortage is formally addressed, provides actionable recommendations, prevents late-stage testing failure, better than reacting after defects block release. Critical quality risks require transparent escalation with evidence and recommendations. Leadership support is essential for staffing adjustments, preventing late-stage release failures, and protecting delivery quality. Question 186. Your cloud provider notifies you of a potential regional outage risk due to scheduled maintenance. The exact impact is uncertain, but similar events previously caused multi-hour downtime. Your application is customer-facing with strict uptime SLAs. Your engineering lead believes we should wait until maintenance day and see if anything happens. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Escalate to leadership with the documented risk, outlining SLA exposure and recommending activating contingency measures, such as cross-region failover preparation and increased monitoring. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures leadership visibility on SLA impacting risk, promotes preparation before potential outage, aligns cross-team resources for mitigation. Better than passive monitoring because downtime has major consequences. High-impact availability risks require immediate leadership visibility. Escalating early ensures cross-team alignment, supports SLA protection, and triggers proactive readiness, not last-minute scrambling. Question 187. A key compliance requirement is at risk because the compliance team has deprioritized your review in favor of another initiative. If the review is not completed within 2 weeks, your go-live will violate regulatory policy. You've already reminded the compliance analyst twice, but no timeline is provided. What should you escalate? Here's my answer and why. Escalate to the compliance leadership with a documented regulatory risk statement, highlighting non-compliance consequences and requesting immediate prioritization. In my opinion, this is the best option because escalates at the right level for regulatory issues, highlights legal and audit risks clearly, drives prioritization for mandatory requirements. Superior to repeatedly nudging the analyst and PATs. When regulatory or compliance steps are blocked, escalation must be immediate and formal. Compliance leadership can reprioritize work, allocate backup reviewers, or expedite workflows to avoid regulatory violations. Question 188. Your project relies on real-time data from another internal system. Recently, their API has been failing frequently, causing interruptions in your test cycles. The dependency team keeps saying, "We're still investigating," without providing timelines or mitigation. Your test completion date is in jeopardy. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Escalate to the dependency team's senior manager with evidence of repeated failures, test impact, and the need for a committed resolution timeline or temporary workaround. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures leadership involvement for faster resolution, moves beyond vague status updates, clarifies accountability and expectations, better than waiting for unscheduled fixes. Escalating with evidence forces clarity and accountability from dependency teams. Waiting for investigations without impact recognition jeopardizes timelines. Senior involvement drives urgency and resource alignment. Question 189. You discover that the vendor developing your mobile app has been using an outdated SDK that your company no longer supports. This creates a major technical and security risk. The vendor says updating the SDK would delay development by 3 weeks. Your leadership expects on-time delivery. What is the best escalation approach? Here's my answer and why. Escalate to your internal sponsor and the vendor's account director, presenting the technical and security risks and requesting immediate prioritization of the SDK update with a jointly agreed recovery plan. In my opinion, this is the best option because makes the risk visible at decision-making levels, addresses both security and timeline implications, encourages joint ownership of the solution. Better than letting the vendor dictate unsafe decisions. Major technical and security risks require escalation to leadership on both sides. Aligning sponsors and directors ensures the vendor allocates resources and prioritizes mandatory updates while collaboratively identifying a recovery approach. Question 190. Your team reports growing concerns that key hardware for a production deployment might not arrive on time due to supplier delays. The supplier continues giving optimistic but unconfirmed dates. Your deployment window is fixed and difficult to move. You've reminded the supplier multiple times, but nothing has changed. What should you escalate? Here's my answer and why. Escalate formally to the supplier's senior management with documented delivery risks, contractual impacts, and required immediate actions, including expedited shipping or alternate sourcing. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures high-level supplier accountability, opens options like alternate stock or priority shipping, protects fixed deployment timelines. Better than repeating reminders with no effect. Escalating supply chain risks early allows senior supplier leadership to commit to concrete actions. Immediate escalation increases the chances of expedited delivery or alternative sourcing, critical when deployment windows are fixed. Question 191. Your project identified several medium-impact risks during planning, but the team has been focused on delivery and hasn't revisited the risk register for 6 weeks. Now, a developer mentions that one of the earlier risks, related to API latency, seems to be getting worse, but no recent measurements exist. What should you do to ensure proper monitoring? Here's my answer and why. Reintroduce structured risk review cycles, collect updated data on API latency, and rescore all relevant risks to reflect current trends. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures risks evolve based on real data, not assumptions, keeps the risk register active, updated, and actionable, prevents unnoticed escalation of technical issues, superior because it combines data collection and rescore monitoring, full loop picth. Effective risk management requires continuous monitoring and periodic updates. Trends like API latency must be validated with data and rescored. A structured cycle ensures risks evolve with project conditions and do not silently grow into issues. Question 192. During a monthly review, you notice that a previously low probability infrastructure risk has suddenly increased in occurrence after recent outages. The risk owner has not updated the status for 2 months. How should you ensure proper monitoring? Here's my answer and why. Request updated metrics from the infrastructure team, revise probability and impact scoring, and escalate if the risk rating has moved into a higher category. In my opinion, this is the best option because links monitoring to objective data, ensures timely escalation for changed severity, prevents outdated risk categorization, better than blind trust in old ratings. Risk monitoring requires reconciling new information with existing risk scores. Infrastructure outages indicate severity changes, and rescoring with accurate data prevents outdated assessments. This keeps leadership informed and drives timely action. Question 193. Your testing cycles show increasing defect trends, indirectly hinting at rising quality risk. However, the original quality risk was rated as low probability and hasn't been revisited. Test leads want clarity on whether additional mitigation is needed. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Review defect trend data, reassess the quality risk rating with QA leads, and update mitigation strategies based on the new score. In my opinion, this is the best option because integrates real performance data into risk updates, converts trends into actionable insights, ensures accurate current state representation. Better than relying on outdated assumptions. Risk monitoring requires integrating real data and reassessing risk ratings as conditions evolve. Rising defect trends indicate a shift in probability and must trigger proactive reanalysis and upgraded mitigation actions. Question 194. Your project risk register lists a vendor load testing environment capacity risk. The vendor recently sent a note saying capacity is tight during your testing window. This information has not yet been reflected in your risk tracking. What should you do to maintain proper risk monitoring? Here's my answer and why. Update the risk register with the vendor's new information and schedule an immediate review to reassess probability, impact, and required actions. In my opinion, this is the best option because incorporates new data into the risk lifecycle, ensures mitigation aligns to current vendor conditions, strengthens transparency and preparedness, better than keeping outdated assumptions. Risk monitoring requires integrating every credible update into the register. Vendor signals, even unofficial ones, must be analyzed and incorporated. This ensures risk scoring reflects reality, supporting timely mitigation. Question 195. A risk related to regulatory audits was categorized as low probability earlier because audits rarely happen mid-project. Now, your compliance officer informs you that surprise audits have increased due to policy changes. Your team is still operating under the old assumption. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Update the risk register, reassess probability with compliance, and adjust mitigation steps to reflect the new audit landscape. In my opinion, this is the best option because aligns risk rating with updated policy conditions, ensures readiness for potential audits, prevents compliance failures, better than relying on outdated assumptions. Revisiting and updating risks based on new regulatory realities is critical. Probability shifts must translate into updated ratings and refreshed mitigation, ensuring compliance readiness and preventing unexpected audit failures. Question 196. During development, your team had identified a risk that a new library version might introduce compatibility issues. The risk was considered low because the vendor promised stability. 3 weeks later, your build pipeline logs show intermittent warnings related to that library, but the team hasn't updated the risk status or investigated. What should you do to properly monitor and revisit this risk? Here's my answer and why. Trigger an immediate risk review, investigate the warnings, update probability impact scoring, and plan mitigations based on the latest findings. In my opinion, this is the best option because uses new evidence to reassess the risk, prevents issues from silently escalating, ensures timely mitigation before failures occur, better than ignoring intermittent signals which often precede real incidents. Monitoring means actively validating assumptions as the project evolves. Intermittent warnings are early indicators and require formal reassessment, updated scoring, and mitigation planning to avoid hidden technical failures. Question 197. An early identified capacity risk was assigned to an operations manager. The risk hasn't been updated for 2 months, and recent load trends show a steady increase in traffic. The manager claims they were too busy to revisit the risk. What should you do to ensure proper monitoring? Here's my answer and why. Schedule an urgent risk review with the operations manager, analyze updated load metrics, rescore the risk, and define next monitoring checkpoints. In my opinion, this is the best option because establishes disciplined ownership, incorporates recent trend data, prevents outdated assessments from causing failures. Better than accepting too busy as a valid excuse. Monitoring requires data-driven updates and accountability. Bringing the owner into a structured review ensures the risk is reassessed accurately and that responsibilities are reaffirmed. Question 198. You flagged a potential vendor performance risk early in the project, but the vendor has delivered well for several weeks. Your sponsor suggests closing the risk because everything seems stable. However, you notice their recent status reports have become less detailed and response times are slowing. What should you do next? Here's my answer and why. Conduct a risk review based on new behavioral indicators, update the probability rating, and maintain the risk with adjusted monitoring frequency. In my opinion, this is the best option because uses subtle indicators as early warning signs, keeps the risk visible until stability is confirmed, allows proactive action if trends worsen. Better than prematurely closing the risk. Monitoring isn't just about explicit failures, subtle trend changes matter. Reassessing the risk based on new signals prevents surprises and keeps the vendor accountable without overreacting. Question 199. A data migration risk identified early as medium included a mitigation plan requiring weekly validation checks. After 2 weeks of missed checks due to workload, the latest migration batch reveals unexpected data gaps. The team is nervous, but hasn't updated the risk status. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Conduct an immediate risk reassessment, review the missed validation tasks, update severity based on new data gaps, and reinstate strict monitoring checkpoints. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures missed monitoring is corrected, updates scoring using real evidence of data issues, prevents migration failures from escalating. Superior because it combines reassessment plus restoring discipline. Missed monitoring can allow risks to turn into issues. A structured review and updated scoring based on new evidence restores risk control and ensures problems are contained early. Question 200. Your timeline risk was previously considered low due to ample buffer in early phases, but several minor delays have accumulated quietly over the past month. The buffer is almost gone, and the team still reports status as green because no single event seemed major. Nothing in the risk register has been updated. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Reassess the timeline risk using updated schedule data, revise its rating to reflect cumulative delays, and introduce more frequent monitoring cycles. In my opinion, this is the best option because captures cumulative risk impact accurately, prevents hidden erosion of schedule buffers, allows early corrective action, better than relying on team reports that ignore trend-based risk. Monitoring requires a holistic view, not isolated events. Cumulative delays erode buffers and demand an updated risk rating. Frequent monitoring cycles help prevent further deterioration and drive timely correction. Question 201. Your vendor informs you that a key module delivery may slip by 3 to 5 days, but they haven't confirmed the exact delay. Your steering committee meets tomorrow, and they expect accurate status. Your team fears that mentioning an uncertain delay may create unnecessary escalation. What is the best way to communicate this risk to stakeholders? Here's my answer and why. Communicate the risk transparently with a clear uncertainty range, potential impacts, and next steps for validation, ensuring stakeholders understand the situation and planned follow-up. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures transparency despite incomplete data, builds trust through structured uncertainty communication, enables stakeholders to prepare for potential impacts, superior to silence because it manages expectations proactively. Stakeholders need transparent visibility into both confirmed and emerging risks. Communicating uncertainty and plan next steps builds confidence and helps leaders plan proactively, preventing surprises. Question 202. Your team detected early signs that system performance may degrade with expected load. The impact could be severe, but probability is still being analyzed. A senior stakeholder prefers not to hear about hypothetical risks until they are confirmed. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Share the risk with senior stakeholders using factual indicators, potential impact, and clear next steps for validation, framing it as an early warning rather than a confirmed issue. In my opinion, this is the best option because communicates risk responsibly even if probability is under evaluation, preserves transparency and avoids late surprises, positions data objectively without causing alarm, better than withholding information. Effective PMs communicate early warning signs to decision makers with clarity and balance. Sharing factual indicators and next steps keeps leadership informed and prevents crises caused by late discovery. Question 203. A critical dependency team has warned you informally that they might not meet the integration date, but they refuse to send formal confirmation. Your sponsor expects a clean status report this week. What is the best communication approach? Here's my answer and why. Communicate the risk formally with attribution to the dependency team, clearly stating that confirmation is pending, but early signals indicate a possible delay. In my opinion, this is the best option because protects the project from hidden dependency risks, keeps sponsor aware despite lack of formal confirmation, ensures transparency with documented early signals. Better than sanitizing status reports. Stakeholders must see risks even when confirmation is pending. Presenting early signals with context is responsible, transparent, and avoids unpleasant surprises later. Question 2.4. Your team is tracking a high-impact data quality risk. The probability remains low, but mitigation tasks have been repeatedly delayed. Leadership assumes the risk is under control because no issues have surfaced yet. How should you communicate the risk? Here's my answer and why. Update stakeholders with a clear status, including missed mitigation tasks, remaining exposure, and the need for renewed attention despite stable probability. In my opinion, this is the best option because highlights execution gaps, maintains visibility on critical risk, supports leadership decision-making, better than letting low probability mask readiness gaps. Effective risk communication includes visibility on mitigation health, not just probability. Highlighting missed tasks helps leadership understand real readiness levels and take action if needed. Question 205. Your program dashboard shows an amber risk related to vendor testing delays. The vendor insists the risk should be downgraded to green, but your internal testing has already slipped twice because of their delays. Your executive stakeholders expect honest reporting. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Maintain amber status and communicate evidence-based impacts and trend data, ensuring transparency even if the vendor disagrees. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures honesty and integrity in reporting, protects stakeholders from false confidence, uses objective data over vendor opinion, better than yielding to vendor pressure. Risk communication must reflect objective facts, not stakeholder pressure. Transparent, data-driven reporting keeps executive stakeholders informed and maintains the PM's credibility. Question 206. Your project risk register shows potential integration risk that could impact UAT if a dependency team fails to deliver on time. The dependency team still insists they are on track, but they have missed 2 internal checkpoints already. Your stakeholders continue to assume UAT will begin as scheduled. How should you communicate the situation? Here's my answer and why. Communicate the integration risk clearly to stakeholders with evidence of missed checkpoints, current uncertainty, and the specific impact on UAT if delays continue. In my opinion, this is the best option because provides factual indicators supporting the risk, prevents stakeholders from holding unrealistic assumptions, enables proactive decision-making, e.g., contingency planning, better than relying on dependency assurances despite missed checkpoints. When early indicators suggest instability, stakeholders must be informed before the situation becomes a crisis. Transparency with supporting evidence builds trust and allows time for corrective planning. Question 207. A data migration risk was previously communicated as medium impact, low probability. However, new findings indicate that data inconsistencies are more widespread than expected. You must update the steering committee today, but your data team is still completing the investigation. What is the best communication approach? Here's my answer and why. Communicate that new evidence suggests increased severity, outline what is known so far, and state that a full analysis is in progress with an upcoming update. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures transparency even without full answers, sets stakeholder expectations early, demonstrates responsible risk ownership, better than waiting for the investigation to finish. Stakeholders must hear about significant risk shifts early, even if investigations are ongoing. Sharing what is known and upcoming steps maintains trust and allows proactive planning. Question 208. Your release plan includes a major weekend deployment. A few engineers have quietly shared concerns that operational readiness may be insufficient, but no formal risk entry exists yet. The leadership team wants assurance that everything is on track. How should you communicate this emerging risk? Here's my answer and why. Communicate the operational readiness concern as an emerging risk, noting the informal signals, potential impact, and actions underway to validate and address it. In my opinion, this is the best option because brings attention to early warning signals, prevents leadership from assuming full readiness, allows discussion of mitigation steps, better than waiting for formal confirmation. Risk communication includes surfacing early signals before they evolve into issues. Clear, balanced messaging gives leadership time to verify readiness and support mitigation. Question 209. A recurring technical risk has been flagged in weekly reports for a month. Leadership appears to be ignoring it because the wording has become repetitive, and no recent update shows clear escalation. However, the severity has actually increased. How should you communicate the updated risk? Here's my answer and why. Refresh the communication with updated data, revised severity, trend analysis, and a clear articulation of what has changed and what action is needed. In my opinion, this is the best option because breaks through stakeholder fatigue by providing new insights, showcases changing severity with real evidence, encourages timely intervention, better than repeating old messaging. Effective communication must evolve with risk status. Updated data and clear articulation of trend changes help leadership understand the renewed urgency and take action. Question 210. You are leading a project with multiple external dependencies. One dependency team has shared concerns privately but does not want their name included in risk reports. Their dependency affects your delivery timeline, and your executives expect complete visibility. What is the best way to communicate this risk? Here's my answer and why. Communicate the dependency risk factually without naming individuals, focusing on delivery impact, uncertainty, and required cross-team actions. In my opinion, this is the best option because preserves confidentiality while maintaining transparency, keeps focus on delivery impact, not politics, aligns stakeholders around actions, better than suppressing risk due to anonymity concerns. PMs must communicate risks based on delivery impact, not personal attribution. Confidentiality can be preserved while still giving executives the visibility they need to make proactive decisions.